Hey, in today's episode, we're making more power, and then we're heading to the dyno to see how it turned out. Let's go! Listen, a fresh package just arrived, which we'll unpack in a moment. And here are the parts that we're going to install in the E92. In short, we want to get more power out of the 2.0 diesel and see how much this engine can handle. And to be able to do that, we need to install these products right here. Let's unpack and show you what's inside. We have the first thing that will increase our power in the shaft, namely a checkpoint. It will actually be mounted here, so we can quickly change the wheels. It has absolutely no effect on the car's power, so let's move on to the next parts. We're doing a balance test. We put it on the ground. And we move on. All right, we have another part, and here we start unpacking the parts we talked about earlier.
We have this beautiful little tube, which will allow us to make a better passage, in short.
I'll explain it to you exactly, Stone. This is the tube we'll use to pull out the diesel particulate filter, which is still in the car and still has contents inside. We'll get rid of it because sooner or later it could cause us problems like getting clogged and reducing power. So we'll take it out today. It won't be installed in the car anymore, and we'll install this tube, which is called the dome pipe. Here we have another part from front mount intercooler PRO, and as you can see, this is an intercooler that's definitely bigger than the stock one, and here we have a really nice description. What does this give us? An intercooler that's perfect fitted, so probably plug and play, we'll see. Lower intake temperatures, which means, simply put, the car won't lose power, because when I drove it for a while, you could feel that the longer I drove, the less power the car seemed to have. It was noticeable. Hyperflow, low pressure drop, increases power and strong durability, meaning long-lasting performance. Reliability, reliability, high reliability. We have the intercooler. This is what it looks like. At first glance, you can immediately see that it's definitely bigger than the stock one. But we'll compare it in a moment, once we remove the one that originally came with the BMW E92 as the first installation. So let's get to work. Did you see what happened here? It's here, but the viewers didn't see it. Look, it's fast, new tuning, quick removal of the front bumper, well, halfway quick because some parts are screwed in, but overall it's really useful because it fits nicely, and before we had a crude screw here. We also recently weighed the E92 on sports scales, and it turned out that the current weight of the car is 1,272 kilos in this setup you see now. There was even a contest on Instagram. You could win tools from Hinktony, so it's worth checking out Drift Patriot Instagram. There will probably be another contest, I think, maybe when we finish with the 5.8. And then we'll see what the weight will be compared to the current alloy. Come on, what is that? It's over there. It's shining like that. I don't know. I know what it is. It's already a bit dirty. This is a radiator that no stock 92 has, and this one definitely didn't have it. It had electric power steering. We added it when we switched to hydraulic power steering, and to prevent the system from overheating, we installed a radiator, which is quite large. That's why we use this one. We just had it in the garage. It passes the test because there were 2 training sessions with this car, and there wasn't a single problem with the power steering. So the whole system works just like it should. So now I had to unscrew it, and we'll take off the front beam and we'll start fitting our new intercooler. We removed the stock intercooler and I'm just looking inside it for any oil. In this setup, there will always be some slight traces of oil in the intake system because we have a diesel engine here. The point is that there shouldn't be too much oil, no excess. Why? Because if any system that's in the intake of such an engine isn't fully functional, for example, the turbo or the crankcase ventilation, or a few other things can affect this, oil gets into the intake system, and since the intercooler is the lowest part, the oil, so to speak, collects here if something isn't working properly. If enough of it collects, the airflow passing through the intercooler will eventually suck that oil in. And when that oil gets sucked into the engine, a phenomenon occurs that we call diesel runaway. Pavel has experience with this, although not in this car, but in a car like this. It's not pleasant, nor is it cheap, because it usually ends with the engine effectively blowing up. And in our case, there are trace amounts of oil, but like I said, there will always be some. There's no excess oil, which makes us very happy. So now we'll compare the stock cooler that BMW installed here with the one we're going to install. We have two intercoolers, the stock one and the tuned one, and now we can compare them.
In terms of width, they seem pretty similar here, but if we turn them around, you can really see the biggest difference. Another difference you can definitely notice is that this one is partly made of plastic and partly of aluminum, while this one is all aluminum. And the weight, this intercooler is definitely much heavier than the other one, which you can see just by the material. But that's actually a good thing because it means we'll be able to cool the air inside more effectively. Kamil, do you notice any other differences with your expert eye?
What you said about the weight, that's both a plus and a minus of this solution. Well, the advantage, as Pavel mentioned, is better cooling of the air boosted by the turbo, but the downside is the increased weight of the car, plus the fact that this cooler is mounted very far at the front of the car. Fortunately, it's mounted low, but still at the front, so like in life, it's always a trade-off. You can't have everything. I'd guess that this one is about twice as heavy as that one, just by looking at it. So let's go weigh it.
We're putting the first production one on. The weight is 2.6 kilograms.
So this one is, I think twice as heavy would be nice for me.
Hey, maybe we shouldn't put it in after all. Sir, the conversion rate doesn't add up.
You can't use the gas all the way.
7.8.
I took out the air conditioning radiator, the condenser, whatever you want to call it, in a destructive way, so don't do this at home. We can afford to do that because we don't need the air conditioning system anymore and never will, so it was dismantled this way just to save time. So now I just need to take out two pipes and then we can try fitting the new cooler.
The air conditioning radiator is dismantled, so let's go weigh it to see if we're ahead or behind. And for the truth. 2.4, so 2.4. That intercooler weighed 2.6 if I remember correctly. So together we have 5 kilos versus 7.8, 7.4. All right, so basically we're 2.5 kilos ahead. That's acceptable.
The intercooler is mounted on the stock brackets. It's plug and play. Everything fits nicely. We don't have to modify anything. Although, as we mentioned earlier, the cooler is much heavier than the stock one, and it's mounted on the original brackets of the old cooler, which was much lighter. So I'm not going to do it now, but I'll come up with some additional mounts for this cooler because right now this cooler, which weighs about 7.5 kilos, is hanging on just 2 screws that are attached to a plastic front reinforcement piece. And I'll just make some extra mounts for it later.
We've finished part of the work, the intercooler is installed, and now we can move on to the next thing, which is installing the downpipe. But as you can see, there's also a new addition in the garage, and my friends, that's a new acquisition for our operator, Daniel. As you saw in the last video, his ride burned down, unfortunately.
And he came here to do an oil change while he's at it.
During this procedure, Camille will check if everything is okay with the car.
We're beginning to inspect Daniel's recent acquisition by first reading the error memory from the controllers. The story of this car is that we went together to check it out, to assess its condition, and see if it was even worth buying. The report showed that the car had a minor accident, which the owner also confirmed, so the whole history of the car matched what we saw in the report and what the owner told us. Another aspect that was very important to us was to verify the car's mileage, because with a used car, especially in Poland, that's a very important factor, and everything matched up in this regard as well. So after reading such a report, we were ready to spend our time and fuel costs to see the car. In person.
What? This one, that one.
Now we're moving on to the exhaust system, so we're removing the particulate filter. Of course, we have to unscrew all the mounting bolts that need to be removed, as well as the sensors that are in this part of the exhaust system. Take it out of the car and replace it with this nice, shiny new part. Great, we've unscrewed the sensor. It doesn't look too good. We'll see if the threads fit at all, but I think they should fit. We'll install it in the car, hook up the computer, and see if the sensor works. If it does, we'll leave it. If not, we'll replace it with a new one. Are we doing it right now?
We'll weigh the old diesel particulate filter and then the new downpipe and see what the difference is. But you can already feel that we'll probably end up with less weight overall, not more. 590. 590, 190, 4 kilos. We shaved off some kilos. We're not talking about weight distribution now, but in the end, the weight is lower. He attacked.
Oh.
Were you surprised that the second part fits?
Surprised? Well, I was hoping it would be like that, so that it wouldn't... Not to spend too much time somehow, but yes, it fits. Why am I doing this? We suspected that the diesel particulate filter, had already been cut out or removed from this car, but we weren't completely sure. So if we kept driving like that, with the kind of driving style required in drifting, the filter would just get clogged very quickly and we would lose power. That could also result in a very high temperature in the exhaust, so we want to avoid that. And that's why the entire diesel particulate filter was removed from the car and replaced with the cleaning part. And now I'm just putting everything back together. And now we know that our nose didn't fail us, because when we took out the diesel particulate filter, you can see that maybe it's not completely removed, but it's simply punctured. So someone was already there before us and did it this way. The whole insert wasn't removed, it was just punctured. Why? We don't know that, and we'll never find out. But now we can get back to putting everything together, and then we can move on to the next thing that needs to be done before the next training session.
The bumper is installed. We've replaced the intercooler and the downpipe. Now we'll start the car and see if anything has changed in terms of the sound of this machine. Will this machine make any new sounds for us? Oh, it hasn't made that sound before. Is there no insight? That's what it looks like. There are new sounds. So the modifications were successful. No, definitely. No changes from the inside. I will, and remain quiet. But for now, it's on low.
How is it?
Perfect. Perfect for Daniel's new car. You parked well. The next modification we're making before the next trip is improving the tire wear. As you can see, this is the tire after the last training session, and on the inside, well, you could say the cords are almost showing already, and on the outside there's plenty of tread. In short, we're using up half the tire during drifting, and we want to change that because this site hurts us, to put it simply.
It really hurts because honestly, maybe not exactly half, but a lot of the tire isn't being used at all, and that's not good. That's why we're going for another modification, which means we'll be installing adjustable control arms on the rear axle, so this situation doesn't happen again. It's just a waste of tires.
Right now the wheel has negative camber, which is why the inner side is wearing out, and basically we want to straighten it so the whole tire sits evenly on the ground and wears evenly. That way we'll get more driving out of it. This is how we're solving our problem. Among other things, this is one of the adjustable control arms, which we can adjust like this. And what's also a nice change is that it has uniballs at the end. So let's get to installing it.
One of the control arms has been installed. Daniel will show you in a moment how it works. We still have to replace more parts from our set, and then we need to go for an alignment and properly set the angles. These control arms give us a lot of options, but we simply have to go to a place where there's a suspension geometry measuring device and set the rear axle parameters the way we want.
All right, so we're getting to work now, and we'll see you at the dyno. Basically, that's where the entrance was.
All right, we're heading to the dyno. Unfortunately, our main entrance didn't work out, but we have a detour here and we're going to Prosimian Street.
And actually, that's a fitting street for the things we're going to do today. So now we're heading to the tune-up.
All right, Daniel is here.
How
did he get in there?
Sir, there's a detour here. You have to go around.
We'll drop the car off here, and then we get on the rollerblades.
There's not much left of Camille's construction.
But no, it rained inside.
So it's served its purpose. That's the most important thing.
Good morning.
Hi, everyone.
We drove over to Robert from TuneUp, and in a moment, we'll be making sparks, as they say.
Hi everyone, so this is a damaged engine, right?
Yes, this is the engine I purchased for the non-functional car with a blown head gasket, so I'm curious what you're able to do with it.
It's a big unknown, and we'll see when it blows up.
No, generally if it was going to blow up, it would have already blown up.
Yeah, has he already gotten a whipping? Yeah, he's already done 2 good training sessions, so he's had some practice.
All right. I'm looking at this because, let me tell you, it's cool that there's a big intercooler. I like that. It's also nice that there's no eco stuff. I like that too. I'm unsure about this small filter as it might suck in too much dirt, which isn't ideal. But all right, drifting is a bit different. Maybe there's not that much dirt there. So what we break, check how much it has now, put in as much as we can, and see what happens.
Yes, basically that's it.
Simple, right?
All right, basically what we'll do is first decode the vehicle identification number and find out how much power this car originally had from the factory. Then we'll do a measurement and check how much power it currently has before any changes to the map, but already with the upgraded intercooler and downpipe. So we'll see how much power our damaged engine has.
177 horsepower and torque. Torque. I don't know, something like 300 something.
Listen, before heading to the dyno, we quickly changed the wheels because we figured if there's a lot of torque, we don't want it to slip. So we put on Westlake 285 tires, and now let's tighten the wheel to make sure everything's right before the dyno run. And let's get started with the first measurements.
What did the first measurement show? Look, there are red and blue lines. One green one. Yeah, sure. Damn, who knows what it means?
There are also black ones.
Oh, there are also black ones? Well, listen, I see 370 terminal, 169 horsepower. So it's pretty decent, yeah. The most important thing is that the graph is fairly smooth. There are no spikes or dips. Everything is steady, although the young guy said that unfortunately up to 2000 the turbo doesn't boost enough. Generally, the whole point is to make sure these lines here are fairly close together. Here we have the boost pressure. Here we have the revolutions per minute S. If we look at it, this turbo at around 2,600 revolutions per minute, you can see, is already starting to boost a little. It doesn't want 2,600 millibars, and it's at 2,550. These aren't dramatic amounts or anything, but you can see that this turbo... Oh, here the controller wants even more, but the turbo is still lagging with the boost. Well, so I'll be honest with you. It's strange for a car that doesn't have a diesel particulate filter. Actually, it's the other way around. You have to slow down the turbo. So here every tuner should already see a warning sign, wondering why this turbo doesn't want to spool up. This is a modification of a similar engine. This is the one I read from the controller. Someone here was removing those torque limiters and so on. That's behind me, by the way. I mean, not the reading, but the controller's response to the exhaust temperature, the so-called gas turbine. It always gives 500 no matter if the exhaust is at 600, 800 or 900 degrees. And we'll probably restore it to stock just so there's control, so that if, for example, an injector starts leaking, it will weaken itself so the engine doesn't get cooked. On the stock setup, closing the limiters isn't recommended, but it's not that dangerous. After chipping, you really have to be careful with what you do because it can really cause some damage. The only question is whether the reading is correct. We can't verify that. If we enable the limiter, it might detect high temperatures around 800 degrees, set that value in the table, and result in zero torque. However, that would help us understand the issue. Well, I think it's okay, right? Just like you wanted.
I'm satisfied. In general, the most important thing for me was the Newton meters. We have 500 Newtons at 2000. So in general, I like 2 liters, right? Yeah, 2 liters. I like when the car pulls from low revs, so I'm curious how it will actually perform for us. We'll talk about it later. We didn't go all out with it because you said there's a risk that the water temperature will rise quickly. It will overheat. So I want to drive this car. We're not doing this dyno run just to go out and blow the engine right away, so...
Honestly, that's already quite a lot. Let's say we kept some common sense here. We turned on those thermal limiters, as you saw, so in case, I don't know, something clogs the radiator or any water flow issue or something, it just cuts the power, doesn't overheat. You know, it's an N47 faulty timing chains. Well, they tend to, well, they... Also the bearings. But let's change the subject, okay?
I keep getting messages and, like, don't buy it.
Yeah, because that's a thing, right? Although when it comes to those engines,
For now, I'm a satisfied user. I won't say anything bad. Well, it's actually my first real diesel, so for now, I'm having a good experience.
You'll feel the 120 Nm torque increase in your back. Super.
Cool, thanks a lot.
And she had a good one, right?
All right, let's go test it then.
The BMW is already off the rollers. Everything works as it should. The cooler we installed passed the test. After 2 runs on the dyno, which is in a closed room, we had 25 degrees in the intake, so that's a very good result. Now we just need to service the gearbox. because during the second run you could already feel the clutch, so it's slowly starting to give out. And we need to go for some more serious tests with a new chart for our BMW E92.
We just dropped the car onto the dyno, so now we're doing a dyno test on 18-inch wheels, 285s on Westlake tires. I used to race on these tires at competitions. We'll see. Either something will break or it'll go sideways.
I can't just go full throttle like that, because I'll lose control, right?
But they're polluting. It stands on a tire like that. I'm shocked. And he's managing somehow, despite everything. But the handling, hydraulics are hydraulics.
Record over there, not me.
I don't drive. Look, it's driving.
Oh, now I feel it. What happened there?
So, as we said, you need to release the clutch slowly, so you have to drop the gearbox. The wheel wasn't moving when I tried to shift to third gear, so I started waving. Boo.
2 had to stay in place.
So 2 had to stay in place. I saw it.
I'm shocked. When I was running away and coming back here, the car was in third gear. Third gear was lifting with a small angle and lots of traction, sliding sideways constantly.
And you're accelerating, right?
What a joke, seriously. Now we need to do a serious test of this ride on a fast track. So I think the best option would be to go to the Kielce track, one of the fastest tracks in Poland. So if you'd like to see that, write Kielce in the comments, and we'll probably go there eventually and test this diesel out. So thanks for watching, and take care, yo.